how do you interpret Matthew 11:25? I did shorten this one because it was a long question, and I just put the verse in there just to deal with it. But this is, how do you interpret Matthew 11:25? He says, quote, I praise you, Father. This is Jesus speaking. I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. In fact, I think over in Luke, the parallel, it even says, for this was your good pleasure, to hide these things from the wise and learned and to reveal them to little children. Now, if I remember correctly, this person asking this question went on to say, it seems to me that God is revealing himself to some people and hiding himself from others, which seems to support the Calvinistic premise that God chooses some people and rejects others. And so he was saying that this verse does sound like it supports the Calvinistic premise that God hides the truth from some people, i.e. the reprobate, the non-elect, and reveals it to other people, his elect people. And he was asking me, how do you interpret this passage, if not Calvinistically? And of course, anybody who knows anything about provisionism and what we just described earlier as hardening, the judicial hardening, what that entails, would already know how we answer that question. But just so those who are tuning in and watching this, and hopefully this man, I'll put a link where he asked this question so that he can hear it for himself. But the way we understand this is to say that Jesus is saying, God, I thank you that you have not chosen the high and mighty, the ones with the robes and the phylacteries and all the degrees of the Jewish people. You haven't chosen those educated lawyers and those politicians, the people that everybody else looks to be the leaders. Everybody else is going to those Pharisees and the teachers and the Sadducees, and they're all looking to the professors, the big name guys, the guys that wear the robes that everybody respects. He didn't choose any of those to be the apostles. Who does he choose? He chooses tax collectors and fishermen, no names, okay? He chooses blue-collar workers versus white-collar workers, right? He chooses the nobodies. And then, so what Jesus is saying here is, God, I praise you that you've chosen the nobodies to be the messengers through whom the gospel would come to the world versus the big dogs. Why would he say this? Well, remember, God chooses the Davids out in the shepherd field. God chooses the Jacobs over the big hunter, big brother Esau's. He chooses Gideon's army only after it's pared down to a small, insignificant number of people. He chooses the weak to shame the wise, which, by the way, is a condition. To be weak is a condition. And so God chooses not for effectual salvation, but for a service. So God chooses Peter, a fisherman, a no-name, a blue-collar worker, to be a messenger to the world. And God is praising him for this. So you've hidden these things from the... So why would he say, well, you've hidden these things? Why would he need to hide it from them? Why would he speak to them in parables? Why hide it from people who are born dead with their eyes born closed? The reason that he's hiding it from them is because of their rebellion. This is the judicial hardening we were talking about before. Remember with the light? These are people who have closed their eyes to the light, and God has turned off the light for them, okay? So they're hidden. They're hidden from their eyes. Remember what he says in Luke, 41? Luke. Oh, the verses just go out of my brain. Anyway, where he's weeping over Israel, and he says, "Oh, Israel, would you have known these things that, but they have been hidden from your eyes." And so he's weeping over Israel, and he talks about how they're now hidden from your eyes. That's the same kind of thing. This is what we're talking about. We're saying Israel, who has grown calloused and hardened in their self-rebellion, it's now being hidden from their eyes. They're being cut off from the truth. They're being blinded. And how does he blind them? Well, according to the scripture, he uses parabolic language, speaking to them in riddles so that they cannot see, understand, and turn. He talks about sending them a spirit of stupor. I don't know exactly what that means or how that would look, but that's Romans 11 talks about cutting them off in their rebellion, sending them a spirit of stupor, eyes so that they cannot see, ears so that they cannot hear. So this is an act of a judgment, of judge, so that they cannot recognize the identity of their Messiah, so that they ultimately cry out, crucify him. Now, some people might say, well, why are they to be blamed? I mean, if God's the one who cut them off, if God turned off the light for them, So to use them in their rebellion, in their darkness, then why are they to blame? I mean, they're just doing what God determined for them to do in their rebellion. Ding, ding, ding. That's the interlocutor in Romans 9. Okay. So the interlocutor in Romans 9 is not somebody cut off for no apparent reason before they're born. The interlocutor in Romans 9 is the Jew who's been hardened by his own rebellion, now being cut off from the light of God. Okay. So the interlocutor in Romans 9, when you understand that, the interlocutor in Romans 9, the objector in Romans 9, the objector in Paul's mind, is not somebody born reprobate. It's not somebody objecting to double predestination of Calvinism. It's somebody objecting. It's the Jew objecting to, how in the world can you blame us, the Israelites, if you are using us in our unbelief, using us in our rebellion to bring about your glory and your plan of redemption, and you're going to save the barbarian Gentiles, the unclean people who never followed the law a day in their life. You're saving them, and you're going to condemn a child of Abraham to hell. You're going to condemn us. How dare you? Who are you, O man, to question God? Who are you, O man, to talk back to God? That's the interlocutor. And so this Matthew 11:25 really speaks to that judicial hardening, the concept and idea that God is cutting somebody off in their rebellion.